All right, for the next 45 minutes, you're stuck with me. Let's try to make it interesting. I don't consider myself a great presenter, so I'll do my best. I try to bring the story together in a nice way with some visual aid, but it really works best if we are interactive. If you have any burning questions, jump in. This is really about sharing the information, right? I hope you will walk away with some insights, something maybe that you haven't seen before. And if it is no-brainer for you, I think then I've done my job as well, because you're already on that page that I want you to be. Right. So before we get started, a little bit about me. Why am I here? Why am I doing this thing? If you need the context, I'm currently the VP of Engineering at Katowice. The engineering org is about 105 people right now. Hopefully finishing the year with 110 or so, including myself. And I've been with Katowice almost touring up to 3 years now. And since I've joined, we have done a lot of work to bring the organizational maturity, professionality up. So competency framework, we've completely redesigned it. We brought in the mentorship program from engineers to engineers. 4-year plans, we'll talk about those, effectiveness surveys. So really trying to make sure we are doing whatever we can organizationally to become a more mature, world-class tech organization, as we call it. So I have a lot of fresh insights, fresh knowledge from that context, but also prior to that, I've been doing this management thing for about 13 years in different settings, smaller startups, scale-ups, large organizations. And before that, I used to be an engineer, software engineer myself. Actually, last software engineering job I held, coincidentally, was here in Berlin. Some of you might have heard the company called Yamba. Crazy Frog? Yeah, I was there. I actually had that Yamba Crazy Frog outfit on. There must be a photo option.
Just said that, right?
Yeah. So I've done software engineering for about 8 years directly, and along that journey, I've also done a lot of I put a lot of different hats to help engineers deliver value. Right? We show up every day. We want to make best we can, be impactful, and I've had to pay. Question?
Yeah, later, I'd like to know how you do your surveys. Maybe
Sure. Yeah, it's not covered by this presentation, but I'm happy to go into details. There has been a lot of debate recently about like McKinsey published an article. There was pushback, etc. But yeah, we can definitely have a nice conversation. Where was I? Okay, yeah, software engineer. I put on a lot of different hats: project manager, team leader, because I cared about the effort we put every day. Right? We want to deliver impact, create value, and my career has been all about like trying to optimize that value stream. All right. So today I will take you through sort of my take on the components of a toolkit or tools in the toolkit that can help any engineer design their career and make the best of it, and hopefully also be compatible with the organization and the environment they're in. So I'll try to give you a bit of a why. Why is it important? Why I think it is important, and I hope you will agree. And what is it, this toolkit? And I'll try to use an analogy. The hints are already showing up. I hope that also helps it stick the storyline and how these tools interact, how do we use them, and then we'll hopefully have some time left for Q&A if you want to dive deep into the specific tool. All right, so let's start with a bit of why. By the way, how is the room? Like all software engineers or managers, product? How is the vibe here?
software.
When you ask,
Sorry?
start with one title, then we can raise our hand.
Okay. Software engineers, majority. All right. Other roles, because it's probably a few. Yes, shout it out. Product manager, data. All right. Tech lead. Cool. All right. So, in my opinion, most of the tools are generic enough for any type of tech role. But because my experience is heavily on software engineers, you'll see a lot of that coming through. This applies to all of us. So all these images are generated by GenAI, by the way. Why not? So this is a symbol of time. Do you know how much of our lifetime, on average, as an individual, we spend for our careers, for our jobs?
80,000
hours. Percentage?
hours.
18,000 hours?
80,000 hours.
Yeah. If you calculate it as a percentage of your entire lifetime, do you know?
That's what I'm.
That's a good drive to stay healthy, stay fit. Yes. All right. So I asked ChatGPT and I validated numbers. If we take an average 40-hour work week, right? So no side projects, no education. Like if you went to university, etc., these are all excluded. From 25 to 65, retire. That is the percentage of your lifetime, including sleep, right? Everything included. That is the percentage you will spend around your career. If you do all the other things, it's going to go up. If you take sleep out, that's 1/4 of your time. Awakening time. Yeah. So it's substantial, right? I think it should be worth our effort. And my call out is let's make it worth it, right? Let's put some structure around it so that we can optimize. The other thing is, anyone familiar with Alice in Wonderland and the Cheshire Cat story? All right. Well, so there's that conversation here, but the summary you will find on the internet, it's not in the book, not a phrase like this, it's a conversation. But if you are not intentional, you're still going somewhere, but you're not going to a destination. So you're getting somewhere, and the cat will tell you that, but where are you getting? And why does it matter? So if something matters to you, you can set that as a goal, and hopefully you can drive yourself towards that. So that's the reminder I want to have. Even if you don't have a plan, there's a plan, right? What was his name? Adam. I forgot his surname, but there's no such thing as no design. There's bad design. So if you don't design your career, you will still get somewhere, but yeah, you're missing the opportunity. Right. So my proposal to you is to use a metaphor, an analogy. And I think the one that suits best what we are trying to accomplish here is the analogy of a journey mindset. Right? If you embrace a journey mindset, you take an active stance. You express your desires, where you want to go. You make decisions to get there. You make progress. You can measure it. You can see it. And you can reflect on it. So you can change course, adapt more deliberately. So that's what I want you to walk away today with your mind, in your mind. And then to match this, we'll move towards the toolkit. So the analogy goes like this. Your career goal, your aspiration is a mountain you need to climb. But you want to navigate that journey, right? You need some sort of a map to be able to reason about left to right. And you won't get to the top of the mountain if it is high enough. Hopefully you'll be ambitious and try to climb a bigger mountain. You'll first climb a hill. And while you're navigating the map, you need to get a bit of a sense of direction, right? Find yourself where you are and how you will go to the next destination. So that's your compass. If you're lucky, you might have some sat nav, some GPS support. We'll talk about that. It's very useful. And also, you don't want to get stuck or die on the journey. So you will need some supplies to replenish your energy, sharpen your tools. So when you map that to a toolkit, and today I will walk you through these are the artifacts you can create and manage to map that journey mindset. And we'll dive into the details on the templates and best practices and pitfalls. So the mountain you want to climb is your long-term plan. You can draft it, you can write it out, and you can share with your friends, loved ones, or your manager. You will get some benefits out of it. Your map will be a competency framework. Your organization might have one, but if there's none, you can still have yours, right? There's no reason not to have it. We'll also look into that case. Your hills are your short-term goals. 6 months, 1 year, right? More tangible, more realistically measurable goals, as opposed to the mountain you want to climb. Your compass becomes your brag dog. We'll also talk about why I chose that name. And your sat nav is your mentors and coaches. And finally, your supplies are the learning and development sources available to you, right? Your organizations, again, will make some of those at your disposal, but you can always find other things. So we'll look into So how am I doing so far? Does it make sense what I'm trying to say? All right, great. It's the first time I'm trying this with an audience. Right. So we go back to this Gen AI image. None of these objects are real objects. They look like the real objects. And that's the whole thing, right? You make your own versions of these things because it's the thought actually behind these things that will drive you forward, not the real structure of it. But hopefully these examples I will include will also help a little bit. So let's start packing. Long-term plan. So maybe a show of hands. Who here is confident enough with their sense of like, I have a long-term plan, I'm pushing for that?
And long term, so like a year is like 3, 4, 5 years, or
Let's go with 4 because that's what we are doing at Katowice. We encourage every engineer to think 4 years because it's a nice round number. I go for myself with 3.
then I go for 4.
Yeah. All right. So you'll know what I'm talking about, right? You really try to stretch your mind and say, I'm really inspired by that image in my head, right? I want to be a staff engineer somewhere, or I want to be really the master of this topic. And that's really what you put on a piece of paper. And then you want to go back from it to like, what is the immediate future for me? What can I act on? The long-term plan is the backdrop, and it has these benefits. So I've highlighted a couple of those because I don't like reading slides and I needed some visual aids for myself. The most important thing you will get out of it is direction and purpose. So you show up every day, what you're doing that day will make sense to you, right? And you know it is actually taking you to your destination. The other thing I called out earlier, it should help you adapt to change because organizations change, industry changes all the time. And what you said was your long-term plan will eventually evolve, right? That's why we call it long-term, and it's subject to change. It should actually change. But how do you know things have changed? How do you know when to adapt? If you haven't written that, articulated where you want to go, then everything is the same. Or if it is very gradually changing, you don't even notice the change sometimes. You're drifting in your career. You're still getting somewhere, but is it the place you wanted to go in the beginning? Should it be? And hopefully, yeah, going back to the first one, you wake up with purpose and you put your effort behind your tasks, and hopefully they are aligned with your goal. You've chosen the job that is suitable for you, and that gives you the job satisfaction. And we spend so much of our time working. And I wanted to also, for the rest of the audience, for myself, and for all of us to understand, there's a dynamic, right? You're not working in isolation. You work with a team, and you work with a manager who are there to support you. I believe in the philosophy of servant leadership. I show up every day to understand how can I help my team be better. That's my biggest objective. And I'm trying to highlight on the right-hand side here how these tools help your managers help you as well, right? And the biggest one I can call out, one I have experienced most and I've used most, is if I know someone's career goal, I can really match them up with the opportunities in the organization. I know we are going to look into Gen AI at Katowice deeper, right? Which team is the most suitable one? Which engineer is the most hyped up one? Can I actually connect them with this opportunity so they get really energized and we get the best effort behind the most important thing, right? So being intentional and clear and communicating helps you and helps people help you. And if we look at an example, the outline, you can keep it as brief as you want. You can articulate as much as you want. But I'm also trying to keep track of like how much time goes into this, right? You're taking away time that you could do other things with. So this is all about time. But my recommendation is at least 3 years. So you're really stretching a little bit, not looking at or getting the tyranny of the immediate dictating your actions. But if you want to go 5, 10 years, there's nothing that will prevent you. Because by the time you get to 1 year, it's going to have changed anyway, right? But if you do this yearly and spend a few hours thinking about it, rewriting it, it will keep you adapted to the change. You define your career goals, break it down a little bit, right? So it starts getting from this high-level lofty vision to career goals and short-term milestones you want to aim. And then Do you have the skills? Do you need something in your backpack? Then you can identify those. Do you need to leverage your network, right? And do you have other resources at your disposal or need them? And what are potential blockages, right, on your way? So if you identify those things, you can, again, discuss with your peers, friends, family, and start addressing potential challenges, create and leverage resources. And to hit the points a little bit, I reached out to people in my network, actual people. And I asked them for their approval to publish their names. So you can reach out to them. They know about this. And I asked them how many of these tools they really use and see the benefit and would recommend. So I'm highlighting a few things from here. One thing that is really important: no one in the world, entire world, will care about your career as much as you will do it. So you have to take the responsibility. It's not your manager or me trying to push it to you. We cannot care enough about it as much as you will do, right? So it's just the mechanics of it. And if you stand up and start driving it, it makes it easy for everyone. And we are all technical people. We like breaking things down. We like projects, right? This gives you tangible artifacts to manage it more like a project. And you can manage it, measure your progress. And I really love this one. Growth becomes measurable and predictable. That is music to my ears, right? And you will always miss here and there, but yeah, you will at least optimize a lot more. But there are some pitfalls. So we have 30 minutes. All right. And let's be careful about a few things. I want to call out overambition. So, and I think we'll all make this mistake. I've made it before, and I still do it sometimes. You want to eat the world, right? You will conquer the world. You will get up and learn all those things tomorrow. No, doesn't work. So you need some introspection skills and maybe a mentor, especially if you're early in your career. You will have a lot of ambition, but not real understanding of what has traction or not. And these tools, actually pretty much all of it, is a surface that can create stress and anxiety for yourself. So take it with a grain of salt. It's not the whole thing. It's only 13% of your life, just. And you're in control. This is about you, right? So over time, try to understand what really sticks with you, what makes you stressed, and try to adjust the balance. And yeah, once earlier on we called out, it's going to change, right? What you can control is the immediate today and tomorrow maybe, but 4 years later, what's going to happen? Like Gen AI going out like this. Well, we had some hunches, but yeah, things change, so we will adapt. So cone of uncertainty means you can be sure about the near future, but not so much about the long-term future. And yeah, embrace that ideology. Right. Before we dive into competency frameworks, any remarks, questions about the mount, the long-term plan?
One question:
Yeah.
To which extent do you also like iterate as this with your partner, with your like close friends?
For me, I usually discuss this with my partner because she suffers from my decisions a lot more than others, and that's an ongoing conversation. I notice something like, yeah, this is really bothering me. I should probably do something about it. I reflect on it. So my 4 hours are more dispersed over the time. But yeah, if you don't have anything, put 4 hours on your calendar and have a cup of coffee with who you think will be helpful and discuss it. I do actually some of those things on my calendar, but being an engineer, I think I couldn't help. All right.
How often do you change your high-level vision?
Yearly. So that's why I'm saying you should do this exercise annually, at least, and time box it for 4 hours. But I take a good hard look every year because yeah, anything longer than a year, yeah, things might have changed. My ambitions definitely have changed in the past year. That's why I'm here. I really want to help more engineers in different ways. Right. Any other I'm diving in. Okay.
How did you make a plan and parallel having the family planning and so on? So for me, maybe the next year's children would be a topic, and I heard I cannot plan anything because it will be a very uncertain what will happen.
Sorry, I didn't
So
quite get.
How does this work together with, for example, family planning? Because everybody tells me
Yeah.
When I have children, everything will be different anyway.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
how can I plan?
Well, I mean, you can still make a plan. When things change, you'll know that they are not working anymore, so you'll go back to your plans. But I wouldn't preemptively try to control it. Like for me, for example, I have two children. The first one didn't sleep much, so I had to change my plans a lot. I was tired. I couldn't focus. All of those things. Second one was a bit better. I was foolish. Like I said, okay, this is happening. And I had to adjust halfway through after 6 months. The first 6 months, I got a lot of time because she was sleeping and I could focus when both kids were sleeping. So it will hit you and you cannot anticipate exactly how. But if you have a plan, you know, like you'll say, I want to dedicate a few hours every week on learning a new skill. And suddenly it becomes infeasible, right? Then you will know. You will adjust your plan accordingly.
And if you compromise your growth aspect, like when you first start not distributing well, you compromise your
Yeah, I had to adjust because if I break myself in the process, no one is gaining anything, right? So take care of yourself first, right? And yeah, if you're staying healthy, you increase the amount of time you have to spend for yourself. So all of those things first, and family first, because if you're unhappy, you can't be motivated and energized. But this comes on top of all of those things much better. Yeah, definitely. You need to be realistic about your goals. But if you at least use that grappling gun, you can start pulling yourself towards it, maybe faster or slower than you anticipate. All right, let's look at competency frameworks. One of my favorites because I designed one, and it's super interesting because it's the interface between the organization and the software engineers, and I think it can be very useful. It can be very detrimental. So we'll look at. What are the benefits of having? Sorry, maybe I'm jumping too quickly into this. Does it resonate when I say competency framework? All right. First, look at how it looks. Again, this is thanks to ChatGPT. So there's no reason not to be lazy. I asked ChatGPT, and this is the first level, and this is the last level, principal engineer that ChatGPT gave me. This was one prompt, so 0 shot. But still reasonable, right? You see the difference between like what is a fresh graduate expected to focus on and what a principal engineer is expected to focus on. But competency frameworks look like this. They can be more articulate, detailed, or less specific. But that's what I mean when I say competency framework. Go back to this one. This hopefully makes it clear, like what are the vectors you can demonstrate your contributions. Right? Your skills, your experience. And this helps you also plan your professional growth in the organization step by step. I will improve this one. I will focus on learning that skill. And you can get feedback from your progress, from your manager, from your peers, right? And in most cases, organizations that have these frameworks also use it to recognize and reward growth, so promotion. That's a big topic. We'll definitely circle around it, dance around it. I don't want to go into too many specifics about promotions. They can be quite controversial. But at least what you will get if you're having one-on-one conversations with your manager, expectations. What are you expected to do? And how can you communicate how you're performing to your manager? How can you leverage them to get the support you need to perform better? So that's the interface we are creating with these frameworks. But like any other tool, there are always trade-offs. So there are some pitfalls. All right, I'll jump to the pitfalls and come back to this. First, it may not exist. Your organization may not have one. But there's a solution. You can always go to ChatGPT like I did and come up with a reasonably sounding one to start the conversation with people around you, with your manager. Hey, I think this is how I'm contributing, and this is important for the organization. Does it make sense to you? can we talk about these things as my contribution vectors and my performance value? Right. You can start the conversation. There's no reason not to. But if you're too rigid about it, it becomes a checklist. And I've seen this firsthand in previous organizations. It is very detrimental to culture because it becomes like, okay, who's going to tick that box first? Who's going to get promoted? And that's not the point at all. And that becomes very competitive and destructive to the team. So please keep this in mind. It's about you being more directional and concrete about your growth and value contribution and creating that interface so you can get the feedback, you can get the recognition. Stay focused on impact, value, and feedback. And some of the competency frameworks I've seen lack the context of the organization. So they are created, but they don't have any applicability day to day. So be aware of that. Again, if you create your own from ChatGPT and talk to your manager, try to fine-tune it, tweak it into how the organization expects you to contribute. So it becomes more tangible and applicable to your day-to-day work. Again, watch out for the stress and anxiety that these things can create. And don't let that become a tool or a target on its own. You still have your long-term goal, right? So you can start from this tool, but it should push you to think, okay, I'm doing all these things, but am I happy doing all these things? Is it getting me to the place I want to be? So don't forget that there's a bigger picture. Right. And let's go back to the testimonial. I worked with this individual directly, one of the fastest growing engineers, like really picked up the baton and started running every time. But I really like his pointers here as well. Analysis, right? Where am I going? And can I identify those as gaps that I can fill and create a plan, action plan, and align with my manager to move towards that. Makes everything actionable. And that's what we want to end up. I'm also sharing the Dropbox career framework link here whenever we share everything, or you can just look it up. They published it publicly and they updated it recently. It's more comprehensive now. And Gergely, I don't know if you read this blog, Pragmatic Engineer blog. He's a good friend of mine. I know his book is coming out soon as well. He's going to touch on these topics a little bit. All right. Are you with me? Question? So if your organization does not support that API, you can still create one of your own and use that to start the conversation, right? So create a vanilla version and say, I want to reason about my growth, my contributions. Is this good enough? And hopefully that pushes the conversation for the managers to start creating these things more proactively. Anything else? I think we are getting the Q&A interactive. That's what I wanted. Thanks. Right, setting goals, right? So you have an ambition, and now you also know how to map it, how to break it down and map it. But this is the breaking down step, right? So in most organizations, you have a 6-month or 1-year cycle of getting feedback, adjusting goals. And usually those are good moments for us to also look at the long-term plan, competency framework, and bring them together to set our individual short-term goals, right? We'll see the example. And the benefits I see in setting goal setting, and this has been a very difficult topic for me, so I can confess. I think it is for most engineers. Why do I have to set goals? Am I going to be judged by what percentage I complete? And in worst cases, yes, that might happen. So if you're not feeling safe about setting goals and sharing them, maybe you keep them to yourselves. But I've learned the hard way. Do set goals for yourself, at least for yourself, right? And try to be reasonable about it so that you can reap the benefits. So try to understand the competence framework or how you're expected to contribute and reason about that when you're setting your own goals. Because it will help you measure your progress, how well you have done that thing. And depending on the circumstances, you can get direct feedback because it's expected. The managers will do it. We are just completing our feedback cycle now, and we've used our competency framework. And the next aspect we'll see a lot when we were talking to the engineers. But you can elicit feedback as well. If you have your goals, you can say, hey, I was trying to achieve this. I think I've done a reasonable job. Does it resonate with you? It's a yes, no question, right? It's not more than an opinion. You're actually really forcing that contract to take place and get direct feedback. And for your manager, this means if they know your goals, they know what you're doing. That makes sense, right? They see you in action and they're like, oh yeah, that's why they are doing that. So they know how to clear the space for you, support you, connect you with the right folks, and do all of those. All right, and as a manager, as a VP now, about 100 people, I care so much about being able to tell with confidence that we've made the process as fair as possible. So if you're intentional and clear, your managers have the right material to give you a fair evaluation because they can start comparing and calibrating properly, right? So you're investing into how fair you get assessed as well. Don't forget that. All right. A template for setting goals would look like this. I didn't set any content in it. Yeah, that's highly contextual, but it should be a good mix of professional development goals. So you are progressing through your career, and the backdrop here would be the competency framework, most likely, and your impact, right? We talked about it. If you don't produce the impact, your growth doesn't matter to the organization. So only when you align your contributions and what the organization needs, and you can demonstrate it, then you will get the recognition you're after. So that's why I recommend a healthy combination of your own development goals and project and team goals. Very careful here, like project and team, those are collaborative things. So at Katawiki, we discussed this in detail, and we wanted to leave it at team level. So a team submits to a goal, commits to a goal, and we all contribute to that. I've seen other takes on this one. If you drive it all the way to a personal goal, right, you are responsible for design of that microservice. It can take away the collaborative element because people get protective about things and they push each other. Again, it becomes box ticking. We don't want that. At least I don't want that. So that's why find the next level team or project that you're committing to and try to address how you're going to help there. And that might change, right? You think someone else is going to design it, but they fall sick or something, and then you rise up to the occasion. You can still say, hey, my goal was this, scratch that, I'm doing this, and let's talk about it in 6 months.
What are the collaboration mentorship? The last point, like,
yeah,
what you put in as a goal, like mentoring others or
yes, mentoring others and coaching others. If you're more senior, we'll get to that in the mentorship a little bit, or after the talk. I think I need to hurry up a little. But yeah, if you, as a part of a team, you collaborate, you contribute in different ways than just coding, right? That's the idea. And if you're more senior, if you go back to the competency framework for principles, you will see a larger element of that. Like your goal is to actually help everyone, like lift everyone. Be careful here when setting goals. It has to align with your motivations, right? Especially personal development. So don't try to fake it because it will always fire back and you will lose motivation and that will show. And reflect on those goals. It's not about really trying to finish all the goals. It's good to be ambitious. It's good to drop some of those goals. Sometimes it might not take place. Reflect. Why did I miss the point? Why did I push myself so hard? Or why didn't that project work? We actually have a large project that we were not happy, both the individual contributors, managers. So we're going to do a whole retro on that one. So instead of the team or individuals just feeling the burden of it, we are now expanding it because we all failed in our own ways. So it's important to learn from that process. And yeah, this works really well if you use some sort of long-term plan and competency framework to enrich the content. So you have the same ubiquitous language for yourself and for others, and they can easily communicate. All right. one of the most controversial titles in this space, bragdor. Heard of it before? Impact resume? All right, cool. Then I'm really glad I'm doing this because this should really help. Again, like the other tools, if you don't feel safe to share it, don't share it. But I do recommend that you write. It is a collection of your accomplishments. That's the takeaway. And this could be related to your learning and development goals, contributions to the projects, and other things. We'll see the example. But you're proud of it, right? And it is aligned with your goals, and you every now and then take a snapshot of your progress and capture it. That's why it's called a bragdor. It has historical origins, and some people push back on this because we don't want people to brag. That is very selfish. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. But I like the name because it's memorable. Right. What it helps with is it helps with personal development because you're capturing and it is actually helping you measure if you move in the right direction. It helps with performance reviews. You can feed into the performance review with your accomplishments. You can be concrete about it. I think I've done this, and your manager can say, yes, you've done it. Maybe they've missed it, or maybe they missed how you've done it. So it becomes a tool that you can drive the conversation from. It helps you with recognition and visibility. And we'll see in the testimonial, it helps you with your self-confidence because you have this history of your accomplishments. And we often neglect that because we're always focused on the future. Oh, I'm going to go to that next destination. You have come a long way. And it is really good to see that sometimes. And for your manager, if there is a doc and there is a communication on that, you get shorter feedback cycles, right? You say, I'm adding this to my, if you have a one-on-one, let's say bi-weekly or monthly, hey, I added this one to my bragdor. What do you think about it? So you don't wait for a performance cycle. You've already driven that conversation up front, and then your manager has time to accommodate that message and give you feedback on it. And again, this feeds into more fairer performance reviews. When on the aggregate, if you have enough signals, you can give meaningful feedback to a large number of people. And for managers, the last one is also I use it a lot. If you have a bragdor and we see, oh, that's actually very good. Not just the what, but the how. We really want to set this as an example for all the engineers in our organization. We dig into those documents to find this. So very helpful for managers. All right, so an example like this look like this, and my recommendation is about 1 hour a month. Take a moment, get a cup of tea, coffee, beer, whatever helps you to reflect and remember what you worked on, how you worked on it. I actually recommend it a lot to engineers to add the how, right? How proud did you feel about doing that? Because that is a good reflection angle for you to align everything you do with your satisfaction, right? So achievements, projects, and then if you did other things like collaborative things like mentorship in development, you can list them. And if you invested in your learning growth, you can list them. And if you're adding new goals, that's a good moment to capture them. Even if you're just thinking about it, write them down, and then you can start having your conversations. I will go this way. Can you support me? And this is the testimonial I have for that one. And a link to a template here. But yeah, definitely super, super helpful for both sides of the conversation during performance and promotion related conversations. I called out, if you look at it and see a record of your achievements, it is really good. Like you don't, because we're all well-intentioned and ambitious in our own ways. Sometimes you need to look at what you have achieved to feel more confident about the future. And yeah, your results are listed. It is very easy to use that as input to any conversation. It's already ready. So for me, for example, personally, my performance feedback conversations I have with my manager, I can prepare myself in an hour. Right? I have already all these docs. I use a different format, but I can just go back and say, okay, in the right context, these are the things I want to discuss with my manager. So I have this huge body of text. I can distill it to a relevant, a few bullet points, and then that becomes my performance discussion that I'm driving. Right. Yeah, it's a brag though, so it's in the name. Be careful about not doing too much of self-promotion. It's not about fooling yourself. It's about pushing and driving yourself. If you ignore updating it, then it will become a real-time thing, and you won't do it. So if you want to do it with some rhythm, with good cadence, and yeah, it can become its own goal. So be careful about it. It's not about having more things to write into that. Having the right things that motivate you to put into that document is the goal. So if you want any mitigation tactics, I have some listed here. Any questions?
Why just a brag talk and not something like a failure talk, like pro cons to improve myself? So I can say, yeah, I was good there for myself,
Yeah.
but how will I grow if I don't recognize where I was not?
Yeah, very good question. Actually, maybe I should add that one, but I try to keep the toolkit concise. What I do is when I make a list of my points with my manager, I add already proactively things that I thought I should have done better. So I do that intuitively. Maybe a section in this document could be as well. The name is like, that's why you can use the other name, internal resume, and then have a section for it. But yeah, very good point. Definitely. Anything else? Right, moving fast. Your sat nav, if you can afford it, right? If you have a satellite phone, and if the battery is there. So you might not always get the signal. Mentors are difficult to find and very resourceful, but yeah, you have to find the right mentor to get the value out as well. So be careful. It's not just having a mentor. It's the one that really suits you. That makes a big difference. But topical, like if you want to learn a new skill, maybe finding a mentor dedicated to that topic is easier. But the idea here is that you get an unbiased signal on how you're doing. So eye in the sky, satellite navigation, right? It's not they are not your manager. They are not your teammate. So they are really unbiased in their own way. And they have experience, right? You choose someone with relevant experience that you can learn from. And in some cases, you can leverage their network too. That mentors are very useful. I've always had a mentor, not always, but in the past 10 years. So once I realized how important this was, I've always made the point. And most of my mentors were my ex-managers as well, right? So I moved on, but I know they were really good influencing me. So when I move out of the organization, I turn back and say, I really had a good time. Can you keep on mentoring? So maybe that gives an idea there. And in the organizations, what we have done at Katowice is create a network of mentorship, short mentorship programs. Mentees and mentors are engineers, but they are skilled in their experience in their own ways, and they help each other. So now we have this network of mentors, which is really lifting the entire organization up. And in our competency framework, we can say this is something we recognize as a part of growth. If you're an experienced engineer and you can become a mentor and lift someone else up, we can recognize that. So it starts connecting all these tools, right? And if you have an external mentor, for my direct reports, I've found people from my network. So my ex-colleagues are in different organizations, different VPs, and they are coaching my senior engineering managers now, or mentor. And that brings external insights to our organization. So we are also learning from the industry. I see that as a big point as well. So if you use mentors, you're not just helping yourself, you're helping your organization. You're trying to pick up the pace. All right, this could be an example agenda for your mentor conversation. I would recommend monthly 1 or 2 hours, or bi-monthly 1 or 2 hours is fine. You don't need constant signal from your mentor, and the topics you want to address are bigger usually, but you need to drive. You need to leverage that time you have, and we'll see the pitfall here. You have to seek guidance, not decisions. So be careful. Not ask them like, how do I need to do this? But let them be a sounding board, and you get to a decision yourself. This is how you help them help you. So don't ask for broken down, distilled decisions, but really try to walk yourself through that process and make it your own decision. And it will take some time to build up that relationship with a mentor. So you have the safety, psychological safety, and the click that you need so that they, when you say something, they understand what you mean and they can support. All right. Any questions on mentorship?
Maybe a small one. That's how do you kind of find the fit with your mentor? And you would meet them maybe monthly or something?
Yeah.
Meet somebody monthly, like in the beginning, like how much do you maybe invest to really see? Because I feel like the mentor is also a lot about the fit.
Yeah, absolutely. I had that here somewhere, I think. Mindset, but yeah. If
You
it's,
also have kind of ways that you try to find, like, that are recommended to you. And so.
yeah, usually the way I do it, I pick my mentors myself based on experience with them. So that is the best way if you can do that. If in the organization you see someone like, I want to talk to them about this topic, that would be one way to do it. Or ask your manager, they might know someone. That's how I matched my reports with their mentors. It's a bit of a matchmaking situation. It's like the love scene, like a dating scene is difficult.
I just wanted to ask like this.
Yes, that's on my mind. All right.
I hate to be the party pooper, but we are out of time.
Okay.
Do you have 1 minute to finish?
Yeah. All right. Learning and development. You've all heard these things: T-shape, V-shape, DevOps, DevSecOps. But the industry is evolving. We add new skills. We sharpen, keep our skills sharpened. So it's very important to be deliberate about learning and development as well. The good news is there are tons of resources that are available. Usually your organization also has some, but even if you don't have that, or if you don't have an organization, you still have sources you can leverage. It's what my recommendation is: match it with your growth path. So be careful of this pitfall. Too many tabs open, too many YouTube videos, whatnot. I do that to myself, and it's sad and diminishing returns. So once you go down a rabbit hole, at one point you know enough to go back and make tangible things, get traction on your path. Stop watching that YouTube video and go back to action. So don't forget that it's not just about learning; it's about applying it. And you see other people publish their results, certifications. It's not a race. It's really leveraging these things to propel you forward towards your goals. So leverage it, but be careful not to get sucked into it. All right. I'll jump through this because this is important. Absolute minimum that I will recommend. Competencies, find a way to have a mental model that you can reason about and talk to others so you can design your growth. Some sort of brag dog, maybe with the failures as well. Create one for yourself at the minimum and try to find a mentor. These are the absolute minimums I would recommend today. But all the other things, they come together. When you have the whole toolkit, you can really see the results day and night. And I try to illustrate that with the testimonies I had. And enjoy the journey. Thank you.